And Alaki Sudala or Alaki Sudara may be Alexander of Epirus or Alexander of Corinth. So they don't know which one. They themselves are. So they assume these 5 Yavana kings mentioned as the 5 Greek kings of Syria, Egypt, Greek, and Libya. So that is the thing they concluded. Conjecture. You can refer this volume 2 and also in Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum volume 1. At this page, it is mentioned. Whether it is correct or not, that also we have to analyze. These kingdoms were conquered morally and repeatedly by Ashoka. But what we read in history, after the sudden demise of Alexander, all these 5 and 6 Greek kingdoms, there are constant internal power conflict. Some kings were murdered by poison, some kings were killed treacherously, some were defeated in the war. There is continuous war between these 5 and 6 kingdoms of post-Alexander period, Greek kingdoms. There is no even assurance for a life of a king. And what about, we can say, animals and other common people? Then how can he say that King Ashoka conquered them morally and maintained peace? My heartfelt thanks to management and faculties and staffs of Sangam Talks, and also I wholeheartedly express my heartfelt thanks to the eminent professors, scholars, students, and many experts who joined this lecture. Once again, I say my vanakkam and namaskar to one and all. I have been introduced. After completing my MBBS and post-graduation in ophthalmology, I completed archaeology and epigraphy and post-graduation in history. These are all my contact numbers, my mail ID, and my website. In this lecture, I am going to narrate about the Asoka's Edict. That is the inscriptions that were inscribed by Ashoka during the period of Ashoka, by Ashoka himself under the order of Ashoka of Maurya kingdom. That is the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. And how the Westerners calculated the date of Buddha based on that. And another most important thing is whether the Yavana king, Asoka's edict mentioned them as Yona in Pali language, whether the Yavana kings of Asoka edict are really Greek. How much truth is in it? That also we have to analyze before coming to a conclusion. Yes, I have discussed in the previous 2 sessions in our Sangam Talks, where I have clearly exposed that no Indian texts, inscriptions, archaeological excavations, and numismatic studies gave not even a single evidence for Alexander's arrival at our Bharat's western border. William Jones and Francis Wilport mentioned the following texts as proof for Chandragupta Maurya's contemporary to Alexander of Macedonia, based on their wrong and baseless conjecture that Sandrocotus mentioned in Macastin's Indica is nothing but the person Chandragupta Maurya Purana. Based on that wrong conjecture, they arrived that Chandragupta Maurya was contemporary to Alexander of Macedonia. For that, they showed these texts, Indian texts, as evidence. That is Somadeva's poem, the coronation of Chandragupta Maurya, and Somabhatta's Brihatkatha and Mudra Rakshasa. But if you analyze these texts, there is not even a single place where Alexander's name or any other Greek name is mentioned. So it is a baseless thing. There is no evidence to prove that Chandragupta Maurya was contemporary to Alexander. So without, if we won't study these texts, we may believe the European ways. But if we go through thoroughly our Indian texts, we can definitely find that there is no name of Alexander or any other. So it is a baseless evidence, and we cannot take it as evidence completely, and it is null and void. And what about the Greek classical literature? They also showed that evidence as Greek classical literature, especially their writings on India, that too Megasthenes Indica. I have explained in the last lecture in Sangam Talks how we cannot believe Megasthenes Indica as an evidence. Even Strabo and Pliny mentioned these Megasthenes Indica is incredible, self-conflicting, and it is worthless. We should not take it as a history text. That is the opinion of Strabo and Pliny, the Greek and Roman writers who lived at least 2000 years before present. So that is the opinion of Greek and the Greek person's writings. But we have taken as a history, we accepted that that is our fault. So there is no evidence. There is no base. So every scholar across the globe, they asked these persons, you saw at least one evidence. They are under severe pressure and uncontrollable pressure with most and worst embarrassment. So they tried to show at least one evidence. What is that evidence they have shown? That we have to do. James Prinsep, his period is this. He came to India as a person who is working in the coin mint. But in the young, if you go through the history of James Prince, his life history, in the young days itself, he lost his eyesight. Eyesight declined due to some infection. And so he gave up the architecture profession and he came as a servant in the mint, coin mint in Kolkata and also Varanasi. He served there as a servant only in the coin mint. And in the 1838, he left Britain due to bad health. And in 1832, he was made as a secretary of Asiatic Society of Bengal. So he already worked in mint, coin mint. So he has the chance of reading the largest collection of Indian coins. So he tried to understand what is that. And further, he tried to decipher the inscriptions that were found on rock in the forest in various parts of northern Bharat. And he found one name, that is Devanam Priya Priyadasi. So there was a king in Sri Lanka with the same name. So he immediately thought, James Prinsep thought that this Devanam Priyadasi mentioned in this rock edict of northern India should be Devanam Priyadasi of Sri Lanka. But he couldn't explain how a Sri Lankan king ruling a part down south of Bharat inscribed many rocks on the northern India. That he has not explained. And another person, most important person we should know is George Turnover. The same, exactly same period. Only 3 years he lived more. He worked as a British officer in Sri Lanka as a Ceylon civil service. And then there is a Buddhist chronicle, 3 Buddhist chronicles, Mahavamsa, Deepavamsa and Cholavamsa, of which Mahavamsa is the largest. And he translated this Mahavamsa, which detail about the Sri Lankan history, into English. And this James Prinsep and this George Turnover, along with Captain Edward Smith, began to decipher the inscriptions that were discovered on the rock in the northern India, where the king name was, sorry, spelling mistake, the king's name was Devanam Priyadasi. So Turnover, because he translated and studied a little bit of Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa, he know that there is a person, king, by name Devanam Priyadasi, who ruled Sri Lanka, and he was contemporary to Ashoka, who was mentioned in Deepavamsa as Devanam Priyadasi itself. So both were contemporary and both their name were Devanam Priyadasi. Both Ashoka and also the Sri Lankan king. So now it is clear that all these rock edicts found in northern Bharat were of Ashoka, whose title is Devanam Priyadasi, and he was contemporary to Sri Lankan king, whose name also Devanampriya Priyadasi. I have verified Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa, it is correct. So based on these findings, James Prinsep and George Turnover concluded that the rock edicts with the name of Devanampriya Priyadasi found in northern Bharat and adjacent area is issued by King Asoka of Maurya dynasty of Magadha kingdom. What are all the inscriptions of Asoka? Asoka's inscriptions were 4 types. That is rock edict, pillar edict, and minor rock inscriptions and minor pillar inscriptions. Rock is a great stony rock found in forest on which inscriptions were inscribed, and pillar was man-made rock pillar on which some inscriptions. If it is larger, we call as rock edict or pillar edict. If it is minor, we call it as a minor pillar and rock inscriptions. The find places or locations of these inscriptions are rock edicts in Girnar, Kalsi, Bombay, Skopra, many places. Pillar edict in Delhi and also Allahabad, Rampurva, many places. Minor rock are Rootnath, Bayaret, Calcutta, Musky, and Barabar Hill, Karnataka. And minor pillar are Sanchi Saranath, which we know, Women Devi and Nigali. So all these rock edicts are numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 13. If they found in various places, if they say same content, they are numbered as 1. Like that, they are numbered 13. All these inscriptions can be read, and also the photos are there in Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum, Volume 1. It was published by our Archaeological Survey of India, but the editor was E. Hulse. He is a European, and he was an epigraphist to Government of Madras, retired. It was published in the year 1924, and these rock edicts are found before that itself. And who are the officers who deciphered and edited and copied? You see, you can see that all the officers, almost all officers, were Europeans only. Girnar, James Prinsep, J. Wilson, H.S. Wilson, like that, Layson, Kalsi, Alexander Cunningham, and Sabaskargi, it is and Karostispi, Prinsep, Layson, like that, Cunningham, Norris. Anything is only the letters are deciphered, edited, and copied mainly by English officers. That we should understand. It's an important point. And what we got the inference from these Asoka inscriptions, issued king is nothing but Devanampriya, none other than Devanampriya Priyadarsin. He was the Asoka of Maurya kingdom because in Musky inscription, the name itself mentioned as Asoka, and many rock inscriptions mentioned that he was a Buddhist, and Padaliputra and Makata and Kalinga were mentioned. So definitely the issued king is Asoka of Maurya only. No doubt in it. And to analyze the historical chronology of India, the most important rock edict, 2nd, 5th, and 13th rock edict of Ashoka are important. What the 2nd rock edict mentioned? Everywhere in the kingdom of Devanampriya Priyadarsin, that is Ashoka, and at the borders such as Choda, that is Choda kingdom of Tamil Nadu, Pandya, Kerala. Kerala means Kerala, Tamraparni adjacent areas are Sri Lanka. You can say it is a Sri Lanka, and Yona king named Antiocha. Here first Yona king named Antiocha came, and kingdoms nearer to Antiocha. And what service Ashoka did there? Adjacent area, not mainly in his ruling area, adjacent to his ruling area. These are all adjacent kingdoms. In these kingdoms, he started 2 types of medical treatment, one for people and one for animal. It's a service. If there is no herbal, he gave herb, and also he advised them to plant and grow herbs. And he gave the seeds for roots and fruits, and they were also planted, and that give medical treatment and food to the animal. Further, he do another important service, but based on that, on the side of the roads, he planted trees all over this kingdom. not only in his ruling area and the adjacent area also. Along the roads he planted on the both side trees, and also he dug wells. This is to give shadow trees, and this is to give drinking water to the people, the traveler. So that is an important service. So these two services, important services, Ashoka did in the adjacent kingdom. And the fifth rock edict, this is the photocopy. I express my thanks to ASI. Mahamatra, they are the morality mandri, that is to keep moral and dharmic nature of the people. He appointed Mahamatra, where all region he appointed, not only in his kingdom, in all sects among Yavana, Cambodia, Gandhara, and other countries in the western border. That is, Gandhara and Cambodia are on the western border. Yavana kingdom also on the western border, and Ratika and Pitinikana, all these areas, he appointed Mahamatra. Mahamatra will be staying, where they will be staying there with their servants, masters, and Brahmins, and Siramana or Ibhyas, that is Buddhist monks, for fulfilling their duty in all the cities of these kingdoms, adjacent areas. That also important. And the most important thing is 13th rock edict. In that mentioned that Ashoka conquests morally and repeatedly. He repeatedly convinced those people for Maka or Magha and Alakiya Sudala or Alakiya Sudara. These are all the 5 kings, Yavana kings mentioned in the 13th rock edict of Ashoka. And also this 600 yojana doesn't mean this 5 kingdoms, but also in the south, Choda, that is Choda, Pandya, Tamaraparni, that is Sri Lanka, Yavana, Cambodia, and Nabaka and Nabapankti, Goja, Pitinikia, Andhra Pradesh, and Palada. All these border kingdoms were situated around 600 yojana in total. Okay. This is the 5 kings, Yavana kings mentioned by Ashoka. Immediately, the Westerners thought that what they infer, the interpretation by Westerners, this Antiocha mentioned this, or Antiocha, they thought it is Antiochus II of Syria. Syria, Jordan, Israel, that we know, okay, Turkey area. So he is the king, Greek king there. So they thought that this Antiochus mentioned is Antiochus II of Syria. Turamaya or Ptolemaya may be Ptolemy II of Egypt, that is Egypt, in northeastern Africa. And Antikini or Andekini may be Antigonus of Macedonia, that is Greek. And Maka or Maga may be Magas of Crene, that is Libya. Libya is west to Egypt. Egypt itself is far away from India. It is west to Egypt itself. And Alakiya Sudala or Alakiya Sudara may be Alexander of Epirus or Alexander of Corinth. So they don't know which one. They themselves are. So they assume these 5 Yavana kings mentioned as the 5 Greek kings of Syria, Egypt, Greek, and Libya. So that is the thing they concluded. Conjecture. You can refer this volume 2 and also in Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum volume 1. At this page it is mentioned. Whether it is correct or not, that also we have to analyze. These are all the border area, that is Andhra, Chola, Pandya, and Kerala, and Tamraparni. So Sri Lanka. This is border area. So he can control or he can have good relations with these kingdoms, and he can send Mahamatra, or he can create medical treatment hospitals, construct and also plant trees and duck wells. It is possible. It is Cambodia and Gandhara. It is also very near. So here also he can do it. But how? This is 7,500 kilometers away from this. This is Libya. Magas, they are mentioning as Maka of Yavana king mentioned in Asoka Edict, maybe Magas of Libya. This is Egypt. This is Syria, Antiochus. This is Greece. So 7,500 kilometers away from this, In all this area and all roads, he has to plant trees and also dug wells, and also he established medical treatment hospitals there, and also he has to appoint the Dharmadhikari, Makamat. Is it possible? Even Alexander, he traveled just once to this area and he didn't live alive. Just one time coming itself, he lost his life. How can we have to maintain all these service activities and also Dharmadhikari posted there, such a larger area, the two far away from Magadha, the two some thousands of years before present, where there is no transport, easy transport is there, not there, and telecommunication is not at all. Is it possible to maintain? We have to analyze. Nobody can accept. Even with a normal analysis, we will reject immediately. Suppose if the Yavana kingdom are here, very small area, and it is possible. So that we should analyze. Which one is possible? In reality, in Yadhartha, what is possible? That we should understand. So what is the defect in this wrong conjecture? No phonetic similarity. Antiochus cannot be equated with Antiochus. Always they will equate like this only. Antikini cannot be Antigonus. Tulamaya, what is Ptolemy? That is also not. Maka, Magas. Maybe slight similarities. Alakia Sudala, Alexander, not at all possible. So there is what they say, it is phonetic similarity, but there is no phonetic similarity exists there. And the distance of 600 yojana, you can say this is 600 yojana, because in Vishnu Purana from here to up to this 1000 yojana, it mentioned. So this may be 600 yojana, but this cannot be 600 yojana. That he mentioned not only this area also, and some parts of this area also. So all this, if you include 600 yojana, will be correct. But they mentioned only this alone 600 yojana. He didn't mention like that. Asoka Edicts. He mentioned all these kingdoms, all these kingdoms, and other Yavana kingdom as 600 yojana. That we should understand. So that is also not correct. And the yojana length, that varies. How much is the length of yojana? That varies from Ramayana period, Mahabharata period, Ashoka period, Aryabhatta period. It didn't uniform throughout our history. And in mentioned R.I.C.H edict that I already explained, that medical treatment and the digging well and planting tree, not at all possible to such a wide area, such a large distance, that too in a remote antiquity. That is not possible. In the same way, you cannot appoint Mahamatra to every city here, and to maintain for continuous for years together. It is not at all possible. If it is here, a small kingdom, very nearer, he can maintain. That we should understand. What is practical? That we should understand. So that is also not possible. And what the R.I.C.H edict 5 mentioned, these kingdoms were conquered morally and repeatedly by Ashoka. But what we read in history, after the sudden demise of Alexander, all these 5 and 6 Greek kingdoms, there are constant internal power conflict. Some kings were murdered by poison, some kings were killed treacherously, some were defeated in the war. There is continuous war between these 5 and 6 kingdoms of post-Alexander period, Greek kingdoms. There is no even assurance for a life of a king. And what about, we can say, animals and other common people? Then how can he say that King Ashoka conquered them morally and maintained peace, harmony with happiness, and not only affectionate to human beings, to even animals? That is not there. History totally rejected this conspiracy and conjectured here. And Ashoka inscriptions clearly showed Gandhara and Kamboja were separate kingdoms. But post-Alexander period, if you see that Seleucus and other people, and also Megasthenes Indica, didn't mention Gandhara and Kamboja as separate kingdom. So definitely Ashoka period and this period are not contemporary, not the same. And further, in Mudra Rakshasa, in the last thing I explained, Mudra Rakshasa is a drama written some 1,000 years after that. But the important characters in that, we can take it reliable. Not the historic events narrated, the characters. That is most probably same character will be retained. Asoka Raja, that is Iran, was ruled by King Meghanada. So this area is ruled by Meghanada during Chandragupta Maurya, that is grandfather of Ashoka. But what we Megasthenes Indica and other things say, it was ruled by Seleucus. And after that, his son Antiochus I. So slowly this region gets reduced, and during the period of his grandson of Seleucus, Antiochus ruled only this area, not at the border of Ashoka area. So even during his grandfather time, it is Ashoka period, it is Meghanada, not Seleucus. So definitely Antiochus cannot rule this area during the period of Ashoka. Even his grandfather has not ruled. Then how can he rule? So that is an important contradiction as per Mudra Rakshasa. And all these names of Greek rulers, if you see, 1, 2, 3, Antiochus 1, Antiochus 2, Antiochus 3, Ptolemy 1, 2, 3. So it is all titles, not proper name of Greek. And on the last session itself, I explained that I have quoted the History of England book. In that, it clearly mentioned 1,200 years before, not only English, whole European people don't know when the year starts, when the month starts. That is their time calculation and calendar defect. We can see Julius Caesar, he altered and he created Julian calendar in 46 BCE with 445 days, and also Gregorian. He dropped 10 days in 1582 to correct their defect. So this European calendar system, Greek calendar system is very much defective. So we cannot accept Macedonia 356 to 323 BCE. That itself questionable. So we cannot rely totally on Greek calendar and Greek literature. What is the base for this assumption? How they come to an assumption? The Sanskrit Yona word Yavana, which can be expressed in Pali as Yona. They thought that it meant Greek. How it came? Greek history shows 4 different groups of people lived around Greek. 1000 to 500 BC. They are Dorians, Ionians, Aeolians, and Achaeans. So their dialects will be Dorian, Aeolian, Attic, and Ionian. All were later mingled, and they can commonly called as Hellenic. Usually Hellenic means Greek. These Ionians lived on the western seacoast of Turkey, that is in this area. This area, Ionians live in this black area. Just a very small area only they will live. So these people, they thought that Yavana or Yona must be Ionian because it is phonetically similar. There is no other evidence. Even from Sandrocotus up to Asoka Edicts, they give only phonetic similarity. No other concrete evidence they have shown to derive the history of and chronology of India. They ruled a very small area, and because Ionian, so immediately they thought it is Yavana or Yona. How it is related phonetic similarity? There is no phonetic similarity. But they assumed it, and they wrote in history of India like that, and we read it as history. That is the thing. So there is no phonetic similarity. Again, it is a playing card construction of Indian history. That we should understand. Okay. Now we can know that Yavana were not Greek. Then who are they? Is there any evidence to show that Yavana were not only Greek, but they are some other person? If there is evidence, we should, then only it will be correct to assess that Yavana were not Greek. So our Purana, Itihasa, grammar and Kavya texts and inscriptions in India totally rejected their conjecture and proved this assumption of phonetic similarity as a baseless conjecture with a selfish cunning motive. What all the Purana mentioned? I narrate only a few Purana, not all Purana. Sri Vishnu, Agni Purana, Srimad Bhagavata, Brahmanda, Brahma, Garuda, Linga, Matsaya, Batma, Skanda, Harivamsa Purana. All these Purana. And mentioned that Yavana were not Greek, Yavana were Bharatian Kshatriya origin. So they are Indian people, Kshatriyas, warriors. That we should understand. So these Purana narrate three important things about Yavana. Yavana were residing on the western part of India. You should understand western part, not beyond western part of India. They within the western part of India they reside, and they are contemporary with King Sagara, who is a descendant king of Harishchandra of Ikshvaku dynasty. So they are ancient to Sri Rama period itself. And Kala Yavana Raja was the northwest part of India, and Kala Yavana, their king, he was contemporary to Sri Krishna. So these things are narrated in Purana clearly. And Goda Deepika, an astronomical text, mentioned here the nation Bharat. It mentioned the name as Bharat only. It has 9 divisions. On the eastern part lived Krata, and in western part Yavana. So in the western part of India, Yavana lived in the remotest antiquity period itself. So definitely they are not Greek. And most important thing is Sri Vishnu Purana, written by Parasara Rishi, father of Vyasa, that is at least 5,200 years before present. It mentions what is Bharat, the definition of the land of Bharat, what is its boundaries, why it is named as Bharat, like that it mentions. Putram yat samudrasya himadre saiva dakshinam varsham tad bharatam nama bharati yatra santadihi. Putram yat samudrasya, northern to Hindu Mahasagar, that is ocean, Indian Ocean, and Himatre Saiva Dakshinam, south to Himalaya, Varsham Tad Bharatam Nama. That nation is named as Bharatam. And Bharati Yatra Santati, the progeny of that nation are named as Bharati. So we are all Bharatiyan. That is the thing Vishnu Purana Parasara named ourselves. Who are all the people lived there in Bharat? What is its extension? Yojananam Sakasram to Deepoayam Dakshinotra. From south to north, the Bharata length is 1000 yojana. Purve Krata Yasyante Passime Yavanaha Stitaha. So on the eastern part, Krata lived, and on the western part of Bharat, Yavana lived. This is the expression by Vishnu Purana. So we should understand. And in Vishnu Purana, these two things narrated about the King Sagarag's fight with Yavana, that is before Sri Rama period, and Rishi Vashishta intervened. That's why King Sagara left Yavana to live. So Yavana were there in India even before Sri Rama period. And I also mentioned the Kala Yavana Charitra. You know how he was burned alive by King Musukunta. And he was contemporary to Sri Krishna. It is narrated in this Adhyaya. And the most important thing is, who was the forefather of Yavana? Who are the ancestor of Yavana? That mentioned Matsya Purana and Mahabharatam in the same way. Matsya Purana, this Adhyaya, mentioned Yadost Yadava Jataha. From Yadu king, Yadava born. Turvasor Yavanaha Sutaha. The children of Turvasa king are Yavana. So Milecha we already translated as foreigner. No. They are the progeny of Anu king. Mahabharata in the same way mentioned in this area, Adi Parva, Yadosti Yadava Jataha, Turvaso Yavanaha Smritaha. So Yadava are the sons of King Yadu, and Yavana are the sons of King Turvasu. Turvasu was the son of Yayati. Yayati was the son of Ayus and grandson of Nahusha, who sometimes was in Indraloka as Indra, and great grandson of King Pururavas. So they are all the Vamsa of King Pururavas. They are not Greek, as per Matsya Purana and Mahabharata. And Srimad Ramayana and Mahabharata mentioned a historical event that Yavana were came out. So, and the Ramayana and Mahabharata mentioned that from the holy cow, Nandini, the daughter of Kamadhenu, when King Kausika, that who became later Vishwamitra, before that he was a king, his name is Kausika, who attacked Kamadhenu with his army to defend Nandini, sorry, the cow of the daughter of Kamadhenu, the other cow, to defend herself. Nandini cow produced Yavana, Saka, Krata, and Milecha. That is expressed by Srimad Ramayanam in Balakandam, Mahabharata in Adiparva. So Yavana are Kshatriyas. They are the warriors of Indian origin. That we should understand. Here are other reference for Yavana. Mahabharatam Adiparva. It mentions King Pandu. He could not defeat Yavana on his fight, but Arjuna defeated him. Mahabharata and the Adiparva, it is an important thing. In this thing, there is a Swayamvara of Draupadi that we know. In the Swayamvara, Sri Krishna, his son, 2-3 sons, and also his grandson, he participated, Krishna and Balarama. In the Swayamvara of Draupadi, who are all the other kings participated? King Kalinga, Vanga, Pandya from Tamil Nadu. Our king also participated. Poundra, Videga, and Yavana were also participated. So if they are Greek, how can they be allowed to participate in the Swayamvara of Draupadi? So Yavana are Bharatian persons. So that's why they are allowed. They are Kshatriyas. Mahabharata Anusasana Parva mentioned Yavana and Krita were Kshatriya. Definitely, clearly mentioned Mahabharatam. Mahabharatam Sri Parva, one of the Jayatratha, the king of Sindhu, was the daughter of Yavana. So there is a marital relationship between the Hindu kings and Yavana. So that means Yavana were the Kshatriyas of Bharata in origin. They are the warriors. So there is a marriage between, a marital alliance between them and the Hindu king of Sindhu. What is the location of Yavana kingdom? Vishnu Purana and many Purana. I have already narrated. Yavana lived on the western part of India. Srimad Ramayanam, Kishkinda Kandam, Yavana kingdom is in northern area. Sugriva described to Satabali that in the northern part of India, Yavana kingdom is there. So it is northwestern border. And Mahabharata Sabha Parva mentioned that Salya ruled Madra. He is the maternal uncle of Pancha Pandava. His Madra kingdom is very close to Saraswati river, and adjacent to that Yavana kingdom was there. So Yavana were very close to Madra kingdom, close to Saraswati river. Definitely Saraswati river is within India, so it is definitely not Greek. And Bhishma Parva, Vana Parva, and Santi Parva, everything mentioned that this sloka mentioned that Yavana kingdom is on the northwestern part of India. This is the location. This is Gandhara, this is Cambodia, and Yavana will be here. This is Madra kingdom, and Saraswati river is flowing here, close to that Madra kingdom, and Gandhara, Cambodia, and Yavana will be here. Here, this is the thing, Madra kingdom, Gandhara, and Cambodia, close to that in Bakalika. This is the location of Yavana kingdom. Here it is mentioned Yavana itself, Yavana region. And most important evidence from Tamil literature. In Silappadigaram, one சொல் யவனர் வடநாடு வன் பெருங்கல் தென்குமரி ஆண்ட செருவில் கயல் புலியான் மண்பதை காக்கும் கோமான் மன்னன் திறம்பாடி. That is the written poem written by Ilongadigal, the brother of Charan Chenguttavan. His Charan Chenguttavan is the king of Chera kingdom, that is present day Kerala. He ruled kingdom of Yavana. So, one soul Yavanar, Vadanadu, that is the thing. So, Yavana country was won by Charan Chenguttavan and he ruled that. We know from Silappadigaram, King Charan Chenguttavan ruled the Kerala, the southern part of Bharat, and he went north to bring stone to erect the Kannaki Mata statue, idol. He didn't went outside of India, but he ruled Yavana. That means Yavana must be within India only. That we can understand. Same thing mentioned by Mahabharata, Sabha Parva. Adavim cha purim ramyam yavananam puram tataha. That means when Sakadeva went in southern part of India, he not only conquered Adavim. Adavim means Vana forest. Purim, many cities. Ramyam means beautiful forests and cities. But he also conquered Yavananam Puram. Yavananam is 6 vibhakti. That is half Yavana. Puram means that is female gender in 2nd vibhakti. So that was captured by Sakadeva on his southern journey. That means Yavana Puri var, Yavana city, Yavana kingdom was in the southern India only. There is also Yavana where lived. That important thing. If there is any inscription evidence, yes, Girnar inscription. It is a very important inscription, Giri Nakar. Now it is called as Girnar in Junagadh district of Gujarat. You can find in Epigraphy Indica, the language is Sanskrit. There is a beautiful lake, Sudarshana Lake, reservoir of water. It was constructed by Chandragupta Maurya and his Raja Pratinidhi was Pushyagupta. Later, this lake was extended and perfectly constructed by King Asoka Maurya, and whose Raja Pratinidhi is Yavana Raja Tusaspa. So, during King Asoka Maurya, Yavana were under his, worked under him as a Raja Pratinidhi at Gujarat. That we should understand. And Nagarjuna Konda inscription, it is mentioned in Epigraphy Indica on the banks of river Krishna in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. The language is Sanskrit, Brahmi. What it mentions, the ideal of God Ashtabhuja Swami, that is Vishnu. That was installed by the Yona people of Samjayapur. So how can Yona people install Vishnu idol? And otherwise they are, if at all they are not Hindu warriors. That itself shows that they are Hindu warriors. During the period of Abhira King. Abhira King is a contemporary to Gupta period, after Andhra Sadhavagana. So in that area, even 2300 years before itself, Yavana were there and they worshipped God Ashtabhuja Swami, as per Nagarjuna Konda inscription. And Nasik inscription, the Yavana were named as Indra Agni Datta, Dhamma Deva, and Dhamma Arikita. So, Indra Agni Datta is the name of a Yavana. Dhamma Deva means Dharma Deva. Dhamma Arikita means Dharma Arikita. Okay. So, all Hindu names. Even we can see in Mahabharatam, Kala Yavana who fought with Sri Krishna, his father name is Yavanesa or Yavaneswara. So, all Hindu name. So, we can definitely say they are Hindu warriors, Hindu Kshatriyas, who lived within the India. So, other evidence are Panini, Sastadhyayi, Lahu Paumidi, and Pasika, the Sanskrit grammar text, and Abhidhana Chintamani, Kalidasa's Malavigi Agni Mitra, Amarakosa, the Sanskrit lexicon, excellent lexicon by Amara Shimma, and many other texts mentioned as Yavana as the Kshatriya of Indian origin. There is no doubt in it. So, it cannot denote any people outside India, especially the Greek. Since the Western scholars conjecture that 5 Yona kings of Asoka Edict as Greek is wrong and biased and was conjectured with ulterior damaging motive. So the Western scholars' base itself has no base. After this, I want to stress 2 points. In each lecture in Sangam Tasha for the past time, how these Western people alter. That I have shown evidence. Here also you can see. See, this Asoka Edict were deciphered, copied, and edited totally by Western European scholars. At that time, there is no internet, and we have to personally go to that place and verify whether they deciphered correctly or not. Whether they translated correctly or not, that also we don't know. But today, internet is available. All books are available. So if they did small alteration, even now we can find out easily. But in those days, it is very difficult to find out. Even now, at the time, we can find out their fault very easily. Even now, they are altering. See, I have shown on Sloka, Mahabharata Sabha Parva. Atavim cha Purim Ramyam Yavananam Puram. That is Sagadeva's conquest in southern India. Yavananam Puram was in South India. That I have shown. How they altered? Atavim is Andaki and Ramyam is Roma. How they altered? What right they got altered? So this Antioch, Andaki means Antiochus, to mean Greek, and Roma means Rome, to mean Roman. And how they translate Yavananam as a Greek. See, one place name or person name or river name, the nation's name cannot be translated. We have to give England as England. We cannot translate. London as London only. We cannot translate into some other word in Tamil or Hindi. So that, but they translate it as a Greek city. Why? What purpose they are doing like this? Because in Bhavishya Purana, they interpolated recent things in that Purana. So that to discard that Bhavishya Purana is unreliable. For that, they interpolated some things in the Bhavishya Purana. In the same way, they interpolate something and alter something in Mahabharata, so that we have to discard Mahabharata text as totally unreliable. Or we have to bring Mahabharata date very recently. That is the motive, to mean Greek and Rome and thing in this. But even they don't know Sanskrit grammar. Andaki cannot become in second vibhakti Andakim. It can be Andakim only. And Romaka, rise Samaga Sabda, it should be in second vibhakti Romam only. So in grammar also they don't know. But they altered. Who altered? In which text it is altered? Whether I am saying wrongly? No. You can find out. This is the text. Sadia Orientalia 116. Yona and Yavana in Indian literature. You can download from, if you type this web address, you can download this text and you can verify yourself. Helsinki, the Finnish Oriental Society. He was the editor, co-editor, and in the year it is published in 2015 at page 6, it is altered like this. Atavim is Andakim, Ramyam. Ramya means beautiful. They altered into Romam. Atavim means forest. They altered into Antaki. So that they should reject Mahabharata as a false text or to bring Mahabharata historical event as a very recent event. That is their motive. Even now they are doing. Unless we are alert, we will be fooled again. So what is the aftermath of this baseless conjecture? Why they have done? What purpose they have done? Already I have explained that King Chandragupta Maurya, by the wrong conjecture of William Jones, it is fixed at 321 BC. Through this 5 edicts mentioning Yavana king conjectured as Greek king, they fixed Ashoka date at around 250 BC. That is the purpose. Because the Western scholars and global scholars want one evidence. So they want to produce one evidence. So they conjectured wrongly the 5 Yavana kings as Greek kings. And with the help of Buddhist chronicles of Sri Lanka, Makavamsa and its commentary and Deepavamsa, they used that also. See, Makavamsa, I read it fully, and Deepavamsa also I read it. In this period, in this Loka and Adhyaya, it mentioned King Chandragupta Maurya ruled for 24 years, Bindusara, his son, ruled for 28 years, and Ashoka became king 218 years after Buddha Nirvana. That was mentioned in this. It is correct. So, based on this, 321, they are already derived wrongly as Chandragupta coronation, Maurya coronation. 24 years, so 297 BC is the coronation of Bindusara, and 28 years of Bindusara, so the coronation of Ashoka is 269 BCE, and Ashoka became king after 218 years after Buddha Nirvana. So they fixed Gautama Buddha Nirvana at 487 BCE. These are all based on wrong conjecture of 5 Yavana kings of Asoka Edict as Greek kings of post-Alexandrian period. For that purpose only they used this, altered. So frequently we heard that Buddha date is based on Sri Lankan texts. But Sri Lankan text, if you go through Mahavamsa or Deepavamsa, it didn't mention what is the period of Buddha. It mentioned that it is 218 years before Ashoka is the Buddha Nirvana. So how they fixed King Ashoka? Due to this wrong conjecture. That is Chandragupta as Androcotus and contemporary to Alexander, and 5 Yavana kings of Asoka Edict as post-Alexandrian period Greek. So by these two Greek conjectures only, they fixed wrongly Buddha date. So for Buddha date also, this is the phonetic, wrong phonetic similarity is the base. So after that, they tried to fix Aryan invasion at 1500 BCE based on. What is the first? I will go fast. The father of Aryan invasion theory is nothing but Frederick Max Muller. That we should understand. First assumption, what mentioned, they assume Gautama Buddha was against Veda and Yajna. Because in Yajna, animals were put into fire and killed. It is entirely wrong. Buddha attained jnana to give peaceful, happy living for the people. He has not uttered a single word against Veda and Yajna, if you go through. So he wants the people to be vegetarian. That is the thing. He didn't mention anything against Yajna. And the second assumption is, during Yajna, animals, tons and lakhs of animals were killed. That is the thing they introduce in your mind. But if you read Veda Yajna, only flower grains of animal shape were poured into the fire, not real animals. See, our rishis lived in forests, and the animals lived happily, peacefully coexisted with them. They say Vasudhaiva Kudumbam. So how those rishis and jnanis killed animals, that we have to understand. And another thing is, Adi Sankara didn't do anything against Buddhism. He came as a Shiva avatara to stress Jnana Kanda of Veda, to insist Atma Jnana is important. That is his purpose of avatar. And King Asoka Edict, Asoka was a Buddhist. Even in that, he mentioned, after I become Buddha, thousands of animals will be killed for food in my palace. But now only 3 animals are killed. That is mentioned in Asoka Edict. So he requested the people to be vegetarian at least on certain Tithi and Nakshatra and some important auspicious occasions. So he requested the people to be vegetarian, to be love with, affectionate with animals. He didn't mention anything against Yajna and Veda. He even respected Brahmins also. That we can find out in King Asoka. And the third assumption is, because they assumed that Buddha is against Veda. And Buddha attained Nirvana in 500 BC based on these two wrong conjectures. So the last part of Veda should be 100 years before preaching of Buddha. So Buddha Nirvana 500 BCE. So last part of Veda must be 600 BCE. And actually Veda are separated by Veda Vyasa into 4 parts. Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva Veda. And another, each Veda have 4 parts. That Samkhya, Brahmana, and Aranyaka, and Upanishad. That you can read here. Only that is the correct division of Veda. But Max Muller, he didn't understand anything about Veda. He artificially, unlogically, without understanding the fact, he divided Veda into 4 parts. Chanda, Mandra, Brahmana, and Sudra. There is nothing in Indian literature, a Veda cannot be classified like this. It is an utter nonsense, we can say. And you can read, these are all the evidence. So he assumed that Veda has 4 parts. And first part revealed is Chanda, and last one is Sutra. Again, it is also an assumption, baseless assumption. And he further assumed that from one part to other part, 200 years required. Why 200 years? Why not 100 years? Why not 1000 years? There is no explanation for that. Max Muller told we got to accept because he is a German and he is a European, white person. His name is Max Muller. That is the only criteria we got to accept. So Brahmana, Sudra period is 600. So Brahmana 800, Mandra 1000, Chandas 1000. Like that he fixed Rigveda period 1200 BC. And after that he fixed Aryan invasion into India 1500 BC. What is this? Because the time required for the Aryan to compose Veda mantra is 300 years. Why 300 years? He has no explanation. These 300 years, I am telling you, have to accept. So Aryan came to India in 1500 BC. So it is all mere assumptions, not even a single literature, archaeological, epigraphic, numismatic, or any other evidence. But we are still reading it as a history in our Indian text. This is the worst part of entire system and life of our motherland. So these are all the evidence. You can read all these books. There are another two things why he fixed Aryan invasion at 1500. One thing he quoted Kadacharita Sakara. In that there was a person, Katyayana, and Katyayana was said to have become minister of Nanda, and Nanda's successor was Yogananda of Padaliputra. What is that Kadacharita Sakara in Katyayana? Katyayana was a ghost story. Okay, ghost story. So he made Max Muller a ghost story into an authentic history because it suits his agenda. So a ghost story, just a story, that too ghost story, was made it into an authentic history, and based on that, he fixed it. This Katyayana was contemporary to Asvalyana and Saunaka, who wrote Sudra texts. So Katyayana was a prime minister of Nanda. Manda period is 400 BC because Chandragupta Maurya is 321 and Nanda was before that. So based on that, 200 years before, 200 years after Sudra period. So 400 plus 200, 600 BCE. That is the Sudra period. Based on the 200, 200, 1200 and plus 300, 1500 BCE. That was the date of Aryan invasion. So a ghost story is shown as an evidence for this. How can we accept? And the most important thing is, with that I will conclude, the James User was the Archbishop of Ireland. In the year 1656, after thorough analysis, excellent scientific analysis, he came to a conclusion. And he declared that the earth was created at 6 p.m. on 22nd October 4004 BC. How excellent scientific discovery. You have to accept it. The earth was created in 4004 BC on 22nd October at 6 p.m. After that only sun and moon came. How then date and other thing came? We should not ask any question. So after that, we got to give 1500 to 2000 years for I.C.H. and Great Deluge. So based on that, human history should be limited within 2000 BCE. So Aryan invasion must be 1500 BC because Max Muller has to allot at least 500 years for Aryan stay at Central Asia. So it is all based on some thought. It is earth created in 4000 BC, that is 6000 years. It is totally unscientific and proved outdated by science. Now there are discoveries of many fossils on earth and millions of years, lakhs and lakhs of years before this century. So it is unscientific and outdated. Based on that outdated conjecture only, this Aryan invasion is fixed at 1500 BC. Why Max Muller and other Western scholars accepted this as a scientific fact? Because James User was an archbishop. How can we oppose archbishop? Archbishop is more important than scientific pursuit. So they accepted and they wrote Indian history, and we are reading that as an Indian history. That is the prettiest part of the nation. Now I come to conclusions. So now I concretely and absolutely proved based on strong and irrefutable evidence that Yavana are the Kshatriya kings of Indian origin, Hindu, and they lived in the northeastern part of within India only. Some cities are there on Gujarat and also Deccan and southern Bharat also. And Yavana kings mentioned in Asoka Edict were not at all Greek, and based on that, we cannot fix King Ashoka around 250 BCE. This is a wrong, unscientific decipherment, and it is entirely wrong, and it should be rejected outright. And based on that, we cannot fix the date of Gautama Buddha around 500 BCE. This is also entirely wrong with evil motive. So it is an evil conjecture. Based on that, the Aryan invasion date fixed at 1500 BCE is also false assumption and wrong derivation. It is entirely unacceptable and unscientific. Further, the Aryan invasion date, not only the date, but the entire Aryan invasion theory is baseless, without evidence, and full of falsehood and evil and malevolent motive to reduce our antiquity, to reduce our greatness of our India, and reduce our patriotism to our nation. That is the motive of the Aryan invasion theory. If time permits, in the future talk, I will explain how Aryan invasion theory is false. What are all the evidence against this? That I will, if time permits, in the next session, I will explain. With that, I conclude. I express my Nandri, Dhanyavadaka, and thanks to Sangam Talks and the eminent scholars, personalities who listened to this lecture. Thank you very much.
Probably you missed out one thing in your presentation about Harishchandra and Sagar. You have said that Raja Harishchandra was the predecessor of Raja Sagar in your presentation. I think it's a typo error or something, because
No. Harishchandra, after that Sagar I mentioned like that. I am not sure. Okay, I will verify that. If I am wrong, I will correct myself. Thank you, sir.
Because Raja Harishchandra lived on the banks of Ganga. And Ganga appeared only after King Sagar.
Okay, sir. I will verify the genealogy of Ikshvaku dynasty. From that, I will verify. If I am not correct, I will correct myself. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And secondly, sir, I broadly agree with you about the Yavan thing. Probably the Britishers misunderstood or deliberately titled Yavans as Ionians. But I was reading elsewhere, particularly the works of Shrikant Talageri ji, wrote on this subject several decades ago. And he says that several Indian jatis, I won't tribes, but I'll say jatis, they went out of India after this Dashrajan war, which somewhere in 3000 BC, which is like 5,000 years back. And the descendants of King Anu and all the other kings, the defeated jatis, they left India, and some of them became Druids, Druhyu. Some of them probably became Yavans and Leches because they had to leave. So I thought that I'd bring it up, and it doesn't contradict what you say, but it definitely, I mean, there can be another theory about the Yavans living in borders at the time of Chandragupta or Ashoka and all. So, and another thing that strikes me is that whereas this bishop says that the earth's creation happened in 2000 BC or whatever,
4004 BC,
1400 BC or something, but these people don't feel shy of admitting the existence of the Egyptian pharaohs in 3000 BC or even 4000 BC, if I'm correct. So I wonder where the inconsistency lies, because at the one time they are saying that the creation happened in 4000 BC or something like that, whereas they are accepting that the Egyptian pharaohs went back to at least 3000 BC or 4000 BC. Just I thought that I'll bring it up. Nothing contradictory in nature. Just my imperfect views. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your encouragement. Thank you.
Dr. Raja, at the outset, Namaste. At the outset,
Yes.
I congratulate you for an excellent talk. And I refer that Yavana kings. You mentioned, as you mentioned, the Yavana kings are of Indian origin only. They are not Greek origin. I read one of the historical novel by Sandilyan, an author called Sandilyan. He has mentioned the Yavana Rani, the army chief of Chola king Karigalan. He visited.
No, sir, Karikalan Nagi. His name is Ilanjelian.
Ilanjelian is the army chief.
He the hero. Karikala is the prince.
The king of the Chola king.
Okay.
So this
I read the Yavana Rani fully.
Yes, good.
Interesting story.
Ilanjelian met the Yavana Rani, that is the queen, Pumbugar.
Yes.
So it all shows that your concept that the Yavana kings are from Indian origin only.
Okay. Sir. But Yavana Rani is a historical novel only.
Yes, historical novel only. Yeah.
We cannot take it as a complete evidence.
Yes,
sir. That is the thing. Okay.
Yeah, nice. You have compiled all the evidence in favor of the Yavana kings of India.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.